operating principles to receive potential access to federal funding. We'll discuss this and more of today's top stories. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman. We'll also talk with Dr. Dwane Broussard, who will discuss the rise of cell phone bans in our schools, as well as the continued importance of childhood vaccinations as we enter another flu season.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. Plus, Moody Gardens Rainforest Curator Paula Kolvig will tell us all about their new baby pygmy slow loris, one of the most endangered primates in the world.
Also, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or send us a text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Congressional Republicans and Democrats appear no closer to breaking an impasse as the government shutdown stretches into a sixth day. The Senate takes another vote this afternoon. House Speaker Mike Johnson urged Senate Democrats to back the short-term spending measure that passed the House.
The ball is in the court of the Senate Democrats. There's only a handful of people in the country who can solve this problem. There's 47 Democrats. Well, 46 and one who caucuses as an independent, I think.
Last night, President Trump told reporters federal workers were in the process of being fired. He had threatened dismissals instead of furloughs if Democrats did not drop their demands that the GOP restore health care spending affecting pandemic-era Affordable Care Act subsidies, Medicaid, and access to programs for immigrants in the U.S. legally. Negotiators from Israel and Hamas are holding talks in Egypt today on a possible end to the war in Gaza. It's been almost 2 years. President Trump and Arab countries are urging both sides to reach a deal, and soon. NPR's Carrie Kahn reports there are still major sticking points.
President Trump warned Hamas if it doesn't cede power and release all 48 hostages, dead and alive, it faces, quote, obliteration. Trump also told Israel to pause its bombing of Gaza. Israeli airstrikes over the weekend killed dozens, according to Gaza health officials. Arab mediators are pressuring Hamas to negotiate at a time when it is facing great losses on the battlefield. Israel and the U.S. are demanding Hamas release all hostages quickly. Hamas says it needs time to locate the dead. There are disputes over which Palestinian prisoners Israel release in exchange for the hostages, how Hamas will disarm and relinquish power, and over Israeli troop withdrawal from Gaza. Carrie Kahn, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
The new parent company of CBS is hiring Free Press founder Barry Weiss as the editor-in-chief of its news division. Skydance Media is also set to acquire her center-right news site, known for its sharp criticism of the news media as liberal. NPR's David Folkenflik reports it's part of a move seeking to appeal to conservative viewers.
In recent months, the former and new ownership of CBS have announced a series of moves. The cancellation of Stephen Colbert's late-night show, which often satirized President Trump, paying Trump $16 million to settle his lawsuit over a 60 Minutes interview of then Vice President Kamala Harris last year, naming a conservative former think tank chief to be an ombudsman. Now, Barry Weiss arrives as a top executive. She is to work in partnership with CBS News President Tom Sabrowski. She has no experience in broadcast and is unlikely to direct logistics, but Weiss is to have the remit to reshape journalistic sensibilities at the network of Edward R. Murrow and Walter Cronkite. David Folkenflik, NPR News.
The Dow is down 82 points. This is NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. Houston area Congressman Wesley Hunt has announced his bid for U.S. Senate. Hunt launched his campaign this morning. He'll be taking on incumbent Senator John Cornyn as well as Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, who is also in the Republican primary. The two-term congressman told the Associated Press that he's been looking at polling over the past few months and determined that people are looking for an alternative to Cornyn and Paxton. Hunt is a strong supporter of President Trump. A Houston area woman is being held on a $14 million bond after allegedly shooting her 4 children, killing 2 of them. Police say 31-year-old Oninda Romulus opened fire while they were sitting inside a car. The sheriff of Brazoria County says she later called police to tell them about the shootings. The November election is less than a month away, and today is the last day to register to vote. News 88.7's Kyle McClinigan has more on what to expect this year.
Today is also the last day for voters to update their current voter registration. Speaking on Hello Houston, Harris County Clerk and Chief Elections Officer Tanisha Hudspeth said residents should check with their local county election office.
And you can make sure that your voter registration information is up to date.
All Texas residents will vote on 17 state constitutional amendments. Some Houston area residents will vote in a special election to fill the 18th congressional district seat. There will also be a special election to fill the citywide at-large position 4 seat on the Houston City Council. Early voting will run October 20th to the 31st. Polls on Election Day, Tuesday, November 4th, will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The deadline to request a mail ballot for the November election is October 24th. More information can be found in our voting guide at houstonpublicmedia.org. I'm Kyle McClinigan, News 88.7.
A staff member at Lee High School in Baytown was sent to the hospital this morning after a reported hazmat incident. Multiple outlets report that the all clear has been given and operations have returned back to normal. This all started when students reported an odor on campus. Investigators are looking into why the incident occurred. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Made in Cookware. Made in Cookware is crafted by chefs for use in restaurants and home kitchens around the world. Their cookware can be found at madeincookware.com. This is NPR.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Oh, it is true. So true. You miss half the show if you can't hear us before we begin. The conversations that go on in this room fascinate me.
Spirited discussions.
Hello, Houston.
It's Monday. What's the date?
October 6th, 2025.
Nice weekend?
Yeah, I had a great weekend. What about you guys?
I was in Galveston, so of course.
Yeah.
It was a busy weekend, but you start us off. You had something really cool you did on Friday night.
Yes, I was with the Gertog Institute. They opened an official institute here in Houston. And for those who don't know, the Gertog Institute is kind of like a language German institute where they look at policy and language. And they had their kickoff event, and I spoke at the event for one of their podcasts all about social cohesion during uncertain times. And I was joined by Dr. Steven Sokol as well as Vladimir, and his last name I'm not even going to try to pronounce. It's very German. All about how there are so many parallels and also so many ways that we can learn from each other, from the United States and Germany.
Nice.
Oh, that's
cool. It was fabulous. There were some incredible speakers, and I just happened to be one of them.
Well, I even see the Railroad Museum's Rail Barons Ball on Saturday.
You looked fabulous.
I felt fabulous. The room was, they even had chairs they had rented. And, normally at a gala, you get kind of chairs, right?
Yeah.
These were furry, comfortable. It's like Palm Springs met Galveston with these chairs.
Beautiful.
And the whole decor was black and white. And so it was, because it was the ghost train, didn't want to come as a ghost, I guess. So black and white was the thing. It was gorgeous, and they raised some good money.
Yeah.
Great.
I of course, wandered off to the Greek Fest on Friday night, which was very nice. The weather was lovely. Thank you, Frank.
Great Friday night.
What a great weekend all around. Little rain popped up here and there, but we can expect that. But yeah, it was great at the Greek Fest. I hope they had a lot of success with it. Then on Saturday night, the Montrose Center, and they had their gala. The theme was leather and lace.
Were you in leather or lace?
I was in neither. I just wore a jacket, had a little sparkle on it.
I also have to give a shout out to Urban Harvest because on Saturday morning,
the pickup thing.
We did our Green Apple Day of Service at my daughter's school, and we had a few children come out and some families. We had one gentleman who lives in the neighborhood who just wanted to support our community garden, and so we did gardening, and it was very busy. By Saturday evening, I was like, I'm ready to chill.
Yeah,
did you?
That was me on Sunday.
Yeah.
Well,
pour a glass of Liefermilch.
Yeah, yes. They had some fabulous German wines, by the way.
Of course, we always are interested in what did you do this weekend. If you're on YouTube, there's a chat group there that's very alive. So go to our YouTube channel and you can share what you did over the weekend, or text us or call us 713-440-8870. Okay, Frank, we know it was a great weekend This past weekend, how does the week look?
Same. Maybe, mostly dry, maybe a coastal shower. Highs in the 90-degree mark. So it's a little warmer than average.
Yeah.
And lows down into the 60s and right around 70. It should be nice. The dew point should remain low, humidity low.
We're in October, and I'm very excited for that. You know what else we are?
Well, and on YouTube, they're already saying, "Make America, America again."
Oh, yeah, that's Frank's
my
new campaign.
That's my movement. If you spell it however you want, it can come out "Mama." By the way, how all Americans should be voting, right, Ernie?
Thank you for that. Today is your last day to register to vote. A lot of people forget about how important that is. If you're not registered or your voter's registration is not correct, come November, you cannot vote in the election. This is the day to do it. So I've got a couple little tips for you. If you're listening to us and you're in Harris County, go to HC for Harris County, hctax.net. That is the Harris County Tax Assessor's Office. They're in charge of this. Then /voter/registration. Check and make sure your registration is correct. Any changes that need to be made by today. If you're not registered to vote, print out the form, fill it out, then take it to a location that can receive it, or you can mail it. And if I'm not mistaken, please don't hold me to this. I do believe it needs to be postmarked today, but has to arrive in their office tomorrow for it to be valid. So you've got to be registered. And even if you're sure you are, go and check it. You can also do Harris Votes, I think, is the other one. You can just check to see.
Do you work for them?
I was going to say, we did on Hello Houston last week. We did have Harris County Clerk Tanisha Hudspeth on Hello Houston. You can check that out on our YouTube channel.
Right.
She has all of the information. We did have some great questions for her. So if you want to be able to go back and for reference, check out our YouTube
But
with
even
Tanisha
as
Hudspeth.
she said, she is not in charge of registration. That is the tax assessor's office. It's a weird thing we have in our area. So you've got to go through the tax assessor to register. Then Tanisha, she takes us from that point forward into the election, and she'll be back sometime, hopefully, in the next few weeks to go over what's on the ballot. Tomorrow, Mark Jones is going to be on the show to talk about what propositions are on the ballot. But if you're not registered, you can't vote. I'm really pushing that. This doesn't matter what party you are. You got to be registered. So make sure your voice is heard.
Okay. Wow. I feel like my dad just came back from the dead.
I'm getting off my soapbox and letting us begin our show now. Celeste, take us away.
Thanks, Ernie. The Trump administration has asked the University of Texas at Austin to agree to a set of operating principles, which reportedly include adopting a stricter definition of gender, a 5-year tuition freeze, and a cap on international student enrollment in exchange for preferential access to federal funding, the University of Texas system confirmed on Thursday. The Wall Street Journal and the New York Times reported that the Trump administration sent a letter to UT Austin and 8 other universities asking them to join a, quote, compact that would qualify them for the benefit. An ABC News affiliate in Boston first published the memo, which the Texas Tribune has reviewed. The Trump administration would also require universities to stay politically neutral, restructure academic programs, it says sideline conservative viewpoints, crack down on disruptive protest, refund tuition to students who drop out within the first year, and commit to grading standards that only rigorously reflect the demonstrated mastery of a subject that the grade purports to represent. In a statement to the Tribune, UT System Board of Regents Chair Kevin Alteif said the system was honored. UT Austin was selected to be part of the Trump administration's proposal. Now is the time to join us on Hello Houston. What are your thoughts on this letter sent to multiple universities and also University of Texas at Austin by the Trump administration? Now is the time to call us, 713-440-8870, or text that number.
You know, there's a lot in here.
Well, come on. You do what we want. You teach how we want you to teach. You go by our principles and our ideology and our rules, and we'll give you federal funding. Yeah. Gavin Newsom, USC is on the list, and Gavin Newsom said if you take the Trump deal, then you won't get state funding.
Now, Frank, you actually have the list
Vanderbilt,
of what we could find.
UVA, University of Pennsylvania, Brown, USC, MIT, University of Arizona, Dartmouth, and UT. Great schools, all amazing schools, and all that have, I suspect, philosophies that say teach what you want to teach.
And pretty regionally spread out. That covers a lot of regions.
Yes, it does. And it's, it's been said that this sounds like extortion. But whenever you say, do this and I'll give you money, if you do it my way, that does sound like extortion.
Well, but the funny thing is,
because if you don't, then what
in
happens?
the wording, even as Celeste shared with us, it's preferential access to federal funding.
Right.
What exactly do they mean by that?
That means you're going to get it or you're not.
Well, you move to the front of the line for potential monies that may be there if you're doing what we want. But if you're not, it's not saying you won't get any federal funding.
Well, I do think that to be selected for this does say something in regards to when you look at it just from an academic space. These are all top tier research academic institutions. Mm-hmm. And so if you're looking at it just purely from a business and an organizational standpoint, meeting government requires to receive funding doesn't seem like a major negative to me in regards to if you're a university and they're saying, you have to give back tuition to somebody who doesn't finish their first year and, following a certain set of guidelines, being more politically neutral. I don't necessarily see a huge issue with that. To me, it doesn't seem like, oh my gosh, this is a major problem. Obviously, there becomes a conflict of interest when you're required to adhere to certain political positions to receive the funding.
Oh, you think?
And so there is some conflict there, but I also think that if you're a major university and you're being tapped on the shoulder to say, hey, listen, we're looking to recalibrate what we think to be more politically neutral in our education systems. And we understand that you are trying to move forward with research and development with the next generation of thinkers, I don't necessarily see the major issue in it.
See, I have a major issue with it. I think if you are, as you mentioned, these are top tier universities. They got to that position because of their ability to do what they do and do it well. They are wonderful universities. For the government to come in and say, and I'm fine with, yes, you should be able to refund your tuition if you don't finish in a year. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that one. What I have a problem with is when they start saying you should be more politically neutral.
Yep.
Well, what does that mean? And that shouldn't enter into the way curriculum is decided. If it is a subject and they are teaching it factually and accurately, the political push behind what you teach, and the only reason we say that now, or I say that now, is because of already the pattern of behavior we've seen. It's not politically neutral. It is what they feel should be taught, and they are not educators. It's like going to a car mechanic to tell you what
I don't think there's anywhere where it says you have to push certain curriculum.
No, but a lot of these schools do. For instance, MIT is very big in math and sciences.
STEM, yeah.
Now, this proposal also restricts your foreign students to 15% of your student body. Mm-hmm. And only 5% can come from the same country. So if a lot of people are coming in from India, for instance, to learn at MIT, only 5% of your student body can be from India.
See, I see this less of a immigration type situation and more of a funding model, where if you look at funding models for university, oftentimes international students pay the highest level of tuition. And so if you're going to be telling universities, hey, one of your most expensive brackets of students for tuition, you have to limit that. A university can say, why would we do that? That is essentially, they pay almost triple what an in-state or out-of-state student would do. So they're saying essentially, okay, well, because we know this will affect your bottom line, we will
make up for it. Well, Marie sent us a text. Mm-hmm. This UT proposal is bribery. I work for a UT institution, and I'm not sure yet if it was one of the campuses that they made this proposal to, but it doesn't make any sense. Nobody is teaching anything that people don't want to learn. This is horrifying. It shows where the UT president's loyalties lie if he says the system was, quote, honored to receive this. Ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. To go back to the point about what they are saying to teach, universities are to stay politically neutral, restructuring academic programs, it says, sideline conservative viewpoints. So that's putting judgment in knowledge. It's putting political slant on information. And so I think that's where they're crossing a line. I don't think you should be able to do that.
And again, 713-440-8870. Michael from Westgate is on the line. Michael, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hi there. Listen, I hold a doctorate and a law degree from the University of Texas. And I hope to God my alma mater doesn't cave to this, what is no less than fascistic pressure. They want you to teach this. They don't want to teach that.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty soon they'll be trying to kick out any LBGT students. It's the slippery slope. Look, I grew up in a dictatorship in Franco, Spain. I know what it is to see a university censored and see professors removed and classes stopped and policemen in the classroom, by the way. This is the beginning, and I hope to God that the University of Texas is smart enough to stop this. Harvard, gave in to the Trump administration and already 4 of their top professors have left for the University of Toronto. The same thing might happen to Texas, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, that's very thoughtful, and appreciate your comments, Michael.
Yeah. CH on YouTube says, thank God Trump is fixing liberal universities. Y'all are such whiny babies.
Again, I think this is less about, looking at it from fixing or changing. There's been multiple universities that have been tapped on the shoulder for this. And there is not necessarily anything specifically stating about curriculum.
But why should a university have to decide its curriculum based on what the Trump administration wants?
Well, I don't think that's what it's necessarily saying.
Oh, you don't? It's called Trump's compact is what it's called. And he's asking them to sign a compact, which is a nice way of saying an agreement that I will control.
Yeah.
And it's, this is a state that is putting the 10 Commandments on the walls of all the classrooms. So now our finest university in the state is going to succumb to this kind of pressure. I think Michael's right. I think it's not good. This text, I'll read it quickly. University compact, to quote Nancy Reagan, just say no. I say this is as a UT alum, this is the beginning of conditions, not the end. If you give in this early, Trump will continue to interfere at every turn. UT will no longer be UT if they go through with this. Also, one of my college best friends was an international student from Japan. I can't imagine my time at UT without her. That's from Lupe in South Houston. Well, you do wonder, all universities live and die by their alumni association and the donations they get from that. So will the UT alumni come to their aid on this and support them, or will they say, no, we are not going to give our money to a school that accepts this money?
Yeah, and I worked for the University of Texas Moody College of Communication, and it's one of those things where I think that it's a fine, absolute fine university. My husband went to undergrad there, got his MBA there, and again, when I worked there, it is definitely, I would say, top notch in regards to education and curriculum, and I believe that those types of places and institutions that have a remarkable legacy starts at the top. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they handle this.
Quickly, though, I'm curious. When you say, the curriculum, it has a fine curriculum, you're proud of that school, then why change it? Why have someone come in and start to dictate what they are free to teach or not? Because they got to this point without that.
I think that we so often go immediately to words like dictate. And I think that there's a difference between being told, this is what you're going to teach, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to, he didn't set out a list of ultimatums. Essentially, he is saying, I am tapping you on the shoulder. We're looking at potentially using you all as making an organization where we're going to look at how we can refine our institutions. And I don't necessarily, our places of education. I'm not saying it's something that I agree with. I'm not saying it's something I disagree with. What I am saying is that sometimes you have to look at it less from an emotional standpoint of, oh my gosh, you're starting to dictate things, and more of an organizational standard and what is the benefit of it.
I think you're being naive.
I was just going to use the exact same word. I think that as soon, if in fact they are teaching a more liberal curriculum, then don't go to that school. But these schools became beacons of education because they allow the flow of free information back and forth and the argument of ideas. To take and tie one arm behind your back ruins the ability for a university to truly be a free form of ideas. 713-440-8870. Paul from Midtown is on the line. Paul, what are you thinking?
Oh, man, I'm glad you guys brought this subject up. When I read about this over the weekend or Friday, or when I heard it over on NPR on Thursday, I think, and they had a list of the schools, the universities, this is just another BS idea from the Trump administration to try and dictate how these schools are going to teach. But basically, they're holding them over. They're holding them hostage. And what I mean by that is all these schools need federal funding to do their research. Mm-hmm. And the thing is with this is if you agree to do what we're telling you to do, then we'll pass along the federal funding so you guys can continue to do your research. Look how much money the Med Center, Rice, U of H, and I'm a UH grad. All these schools are doing all this research, but they're holding it over them. So you have to agree if you want your money. So we need your funds. And the thing is, we in the United States are already seeing the brain drain. All these other countries around the world, hey, tell you what, instead of getting the students from around the world to come here because they know we're such a great, innovative research country.
Okay.
Hey,
Paul,
well, we can keep our people here.
Paul, we got a couple of other calls. Let's go to Frederick from Central Houston. Frederick, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hi, thank you. This, to me, is a simple governance issue. Can you imagine if the Biden administration had made this, quote, offer to the Abbott-controlled UT Board of Regents? They would have laughed at, they would have said no in a second. It's a university is being asked to hand over its governance to the federal government. Mm-hmm. And that is, that's insane. Thank you.
Thank you, Frederick. CH also points out in our chat over on YouTube, I guess you don't know what public means. If they don't want taxpayer money, then they can do whatever they want. We're going to grab another quick phone call, 713-440-8870. It is Beth from the Heights. Beth, what's on your mind?
Hi, yeah, I am just, this is so concerning because I have young children and what is happening with our universities. So Trump's compact concept, I am a UT grad. I was in the nursing school, so obviously in the medical field where you take care of everyone of all different genders, religions, everything. And I've watched my town in Austin change a lot and grow. And if University of Texas changes their openness to how their city is and how this state is, they will actually lose all of the income they ever got from ACL and every other part of the entertainment industry. And so when it comes down to money, that's what's going to happen. And it makes me very, very sad.
Beth, thank you for that. We got a text from a UT alum that says, I have already notified UT I am canceling my multi-million endowment scholarship over this. And they signed it, Michael. We're interested in what you have to say, so continue to text us or email us at talk@hellohouston.org or even in our YouTube chat. Leave messages, and we'll return to this subject a little later on, 713-440-8870.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we'll talk with Dr. Dwane Broussard about the rise of cell phone bans in schools and their mental health implications, and the continued importance of childhood vaccinations as we enter another flu season. This is News 88.7.
With federal support gone, Houston Public Media needs a stronger foundation for the future. The Houston Public Media Resiliency Fund is our response to ensure this service remains strong, stable, and community-powered. Your gift today helps us stay on the air tomorrow and the day after that. Give now to the Resiliency Fund at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 364-8300.
Says she grew up in a poor and dysfunctional family, but her Ohio hometown was rich with diversity and community back then.
In my hometown, which was a hotbed of abolitionist activity and an underground railroad haven, there were now Confederate flags flying.
Hear how Macy returned home to uncover what changed for her new book on all things considered from NPR News.
You can hear that today starting at 3.
Housing is a supply and demand business, and demand in parts of the South is falling.
I do believe it is due to the immigration policy by the Trump administration, is that foreign buyers are hesitant, they've halted, and they really are buying much less.
I'm Kai Rizdal. If you build it, next time on Marketplace.
You can listen to Marketplace coming up tonight at 6:30.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Trinity University in San Antonio, where students connect with research, internships, and the city's cultural and professional opportunities so that learning extends beyond the classroom. More at trinity.edu. Support comes from the Houston Symphony, presenting pianist Zanif Thibaudet, performing Saint-Saëns Egyptian Concerto No. 5, also including Fallow's Three-Cornered Hat, October 10th through 12th at Jones Hall. Tickets available at houstonsymphony.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. Join the conversation. Call now, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
The Harris County Medical Society, founded in 1903, is now the nation's largest county medical society, representing more than 15,000 physicians and medical students. It has long shaped health policy and driven public health efforts across Texas, from vaccine awareness campaigns to distributing millions of pieces of PPE, personal protective equipment, during COVID-19. But that's not all they do. With us now is Dr. Dwane Broussard, president of HCMS, to talk about the rise of cell phone bans in our schools and what that means for students' mental health and the continuing importance of childhood vaccinations as we enter the flu season. Dr. Broussard, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you so much for having me.
And if you have a question you would like to join the conversation, you can give us a call or send us a text, 713-440-8870.
I just want to start off with, how does the health authority come into dealing with cell phones? How does that connection work?
Well, I think that there's been a lot of discussion, not just only among educators, but also among the physicians that are taking care of the students, that recognize that there are issues with overuse of social media, in particular, and cell phone use. So the conversations have been going on for years, and other states have recognized that limiting the amount of cell phone use and social media access, especially during school hours, would actually benefit students, help them to concentrate better, help their overall mental health. So that's how physicians got involved.
Well, one thing I read that's interesting about cell phone use and the lack of it is that a lot of these groups that have now been banned, these DEI groups, especially LGBTQ, they've been trying to communicate with each other to say, hey, we're going to meet at the ice cream parlor after school. But they can't text each other because they don't have their cell phones. And so that's a different sort of play on the mental health of students who have lost their safe space because of the lack of cell phones.
Well, I can imagine that would be true. There are positives to social media use and to cell phone use, and that's one of them that you mentioned. It helps you to connect with your family and your friends. But there are also lots of negatives about social media use. And we know that there's a lot of, cyberbullying that actually occurs. People that overuse sometimes will feel isolated, feel anxious, feel depressed. And that's part of the drawback of social media use. So limited the amount that during classroom time, allows students to sort of focus on what's going on in the classroom. And then also will probably encourage them to communicate differently. It's not just about communicating with your phone. It's now actually having a conversation with someone, right?
Pass notes.
Right.
Yeah, I would imagine that also, Dr. Broussard, as a parent and as a mom of children, when we look at the data and what it shows is that social media, the cons of it are much higher than the pros of it. when we're looking at it with students at all levels.
I totally agree with that statement. The Pew Research Center did a study, and they saw that actually 74%, almost 3 out of 4 adults, supported the ban on social media and cell phone use while their children are in school. Mm-hmm. Only 19% of adults said, no, I want my child to have access to that during school. So again, the vast majority, the overwhelming majority of parents want to have a limit on the amount of social media use there.
But keep in mind, and you may be one of these people, students have grown up with a cell phone, literally. I mean, I didn't get one till I was in my 30s. Yeah. I mean, it's like we limit their use of cars until they're 16, right? Yeah. So I get it, but they have grown up with these cell phones. Yeah. And so for some of them to suddenly lose those during school, say their senior year, I would think it would be a little more damaging than you seem to think.
That I seem to think? No. I think that we should recognize, and I think teachers are actually good at recognizing this too, and parents should be made aware that when you do pull it away, it can create anxiety. Mm-hmm. It can create some...
When we lose our cell phone, like misplace it. Where's my cell phone? Where's my cell phone? I mean, that's me. I don't know about you, but that's me. So I can imagine for a student to permanently during school have it taken away, it would create a lot of anxiety.
We should be aware of that, and that it can cause it. You may see a little bit more of a disruptive behavior, especially in the middle school age group. A little bit more disruptive behavior, among the students.
Let me swing this a little different direction here and ask about the anxiety and concern that it's causing parents in today's environment where we are worried more. I don't know that we know it, but we are worried more about the safety of our children in schools. To have that phone taken away from their children, which maybe parents feel is their connection to their child when they're out of the grasp of the family home, are we noticing anything there when it comes to stress, or any suggestions on how parents can manage that concern and worry?
I think the schools, as I understand, have done a really good job of communicating with the parents about this is how you will be notified if something happens. Mm-hmm. So that message actually went out at the beginning of the year. Also, I think most of the schools, the ban is from using the cell phone during classroom time, during school time. So it's from using it. I'm not sure if they're actually... I may be wrong on this, but my assumption is that they're actually not taking away the phone. It's just that you're not able to use it.
Why was that not in place forever? I mean, what teacher is going to let a kid sit there and text during class time? Right. Is this just giving it more authority now that the teacher doesn't have to be the one to say, put it in your backpack because it's just the rules now?
I think that's part of the reason there, is to have sort of a uniform approach to how social media is used in the classroom.
But Dr. Broussard, you all, the Harris County Medical Society, I want to bring it out just a little bit. Y'all represent, I was astonished at these numbers, more than 15,000 physicians and medical students. Right now, obviously, cell phone and those type of things are very topical, and they're also in the news. What is something that you think right now is affecting young people as well? And, we are moving into flu season. Vaccinations. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Perfect transition to vaccinations. Yes. Again, vaccinations are available. They do help to prevent communicable diseases that can actually be devastating in some cases. Yeah. So we have to think about ourselves and the community that we're around. And the best way we can to protect ourselves and our families and our friends is to get vaccinations, especially for communicable diseases that we know are seasonal for the most part, like the flu.
Do you still recommend the COVID vaccine?
Personally, yes. I still do.
What are you seeing? We keep hearing these stories about how these epidemics are breaking out. I don't know if epidemic's the right word, but we're seeing things return that have been gone because of vaccines, but we still see that push against it. Where do you communicate the information in this environment to parents to get them to realize the significance, or when they should question whether or not to get the vaccines?
Well, I encourage all patients that are vaccine hesitant to have that honest conversation with their physician. To say, these are my concerns. Please help me to understand this. And most doctors will actually lay out the scientific reasons as to why this is important. And also be there to answer any of the misinformation, or at least address the misinformation that's out there about vaccines.
What concerns you most about that misinformation?
I think that people can sometimes, through the internet, without any scientific reasoning, can make blanket statements that actually have no fact behind them, no scientific fact behind them. And that can actually become viral, so to speak. And now it can be just transmitted from person to person. And then if you see it enough times, you will think that that statement is accurate.
Well, your algorithms will continue to reinforce whatever information you've seen in the first place.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, I agree. I agree with you on the vaccines. How do you approach it when someone says, well, the top people in our government are saying that vaccines are not good?
Again, it's just having that conversation. This is the data that's behind the reason for my recommendation. You mentioned COVID vaccines earlier, and I know that it's a very touchy topic with lots of patients, and there's a lot of concern, and no one really wants to get worse from a vaccine. But just having the conversation with that person. Now, some people that would be strongly encouraged because of their underlying disease conditions. If you have heart disease, if you have lung disease, if you have kidney disease, you want to get the COVID vaccination because that's the best chance you have of not getting a severe illness. We've seen that it actually decreases hospitalizations if you are one of those patients that gets the vaccine. It will decrease the chances of you being hospitalized from it.
Mm-hmm. Not a lot has been said about the HPV vaccine that is available to young children. And I don't know why not, because it seems like that is something that most children at some age should get. Do you recommend it?
Yes.
You do. But I remember, do you remember the controversy around it?
Yes.
Because I guess it showed that people have sex, right? I mean, and so people didn't want to think that their kids were going to have sex, and so they didn't want them to have the HPV vaccine. Has that changed?
The conversation still happens with patients, of course, and actually with the patient's parents in particular. But we've seen the diseases related to HPV actually decrease over the past 10 years because of the number of HPV vaccines that are actually being given.
Well, what happened to monkeypox? I remember that was all the rage a year ago. I went and got a monkeypox vaccine, and everyone, and they said that you could get it by just sort of rubbing shoulders or elbows with someone who had it. It was highly communicable, and you better go get a monkeypox vaccine. And so a lot of people did, but now you don't hear anything about it.
Yes, well, that vaccine was recommended for patients in certain demographic groups that were at higher risk because it is so highly transmissible. So, but that wasn't a blanket recommendation for everyone to get the monkeypox vaccine.
Dr. Broussard, talk to us about the Harris County Medical Society. What do you guys do?
Oh, thank you for asking. No, we're a busy organization. We're a volunteer organization of physicians, and we are committed to advancing the delivery of health care and improving the health care for all the patients in Harris County.
So how are we doing in Harris County?
I think we're doing well. Now, we work along with lots of other organizations, so not just the medical schools and the hospitals. We also work with the public health institutions here in Houston, and we are one of the organizations that actually helps to bring everyone together and make sure that there's a unified message that's actually going out to the patients of Harris County.
But when you talk about bringing everybody together, what do you mean exactly?
Well, our members represent lots of different institutions. We have members that are academic physicians who are with medical schools. We have physicians that are very involved with hospitals. We have, and again, we have private practice physicians who are there. So everyone's voice is actually kind of brought together in the medical society.
And so what type of challenges do you face when you are trying to essentially bring in all of these different medical industries and, not so much industries, but different voices within the medical field? What to get alignment? Is that challenging?
It is challenging, but it's a good process to go through because when you're sitting in a room and everyone's sort of sharing their ideas, I think the common denominator that comes out is very strong. I think that it's actually a very good message that's actually presented. And we have to take into account everyone's opinion, everyone's slant on the topic.
Interesting. Well, Thank you again. Dr. Dwane Broussard is the president of the Harris County Medical Society. Dr. Broussard, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Coming up, we're going to talk about the birth of an endangered species at Moody Gardens. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Federal funding for public media has been cut. In response, we're creating Houston Public Media's Resiliency Fund. Donations made toward the fund will directly counter the loss of the $2.2 million in federal funds that were cut annually and strengthen our station's foundation to provide our services into the future. Contributing to this fund is easy and quick and makes all the difference to our station. Help build the Resiliency Fund now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Freakonomics, Mondays at 9 p.m. on News 88.7.
It's been 2 years since the deadly Hamas attack on Israel. But now, as talks begin in Egypt, there is cautious hope for a ceasefire to end the war in Gaza and for the release of the remaining hostages. What will it take for both the leaders of Israel and Hamas to make a pivot towards peace? That's next time on 1A.
You can listen to 1A coming up today at 2 p.m. on News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Rice University's Master of Interdisciplinary Studies, providing working adults with a flexible degree plan while engaging with the academic resources of Rice. Details at gls.rice.edu.
Support comes from Gen Pro, a Houston-based home generator service, providing power to homes during unexpected outages, helping with connectivity and productivity. More information is available at genpro.com.
Support comes from Mercury Chamber Orchestra, performing all of Bach's Brandenburg concertos in one night on historical instruments that reflect Bach's original intentions. October 11th at the Wortham. More at mercuryhouston.org.
Houston Public Media is licensed to the University of Houston System, governed by the UH Board of Regents. Information about open meetings, dates, times, and locations is online at uhsystem.edu.
And now back to Hello Houston. Call now, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org to get your comment in on today's topics. Here's Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Listen.
All right, recently Moody Gardens in Galveston welcomed a baby pygmy slow loris, one of the most endangered primates in the world. Born in Moody Gardens Rainforest Pyramid, the birth represents not only a significant conservation event, but also an important milestone for the species, which faces threats such as a habitat loss and illegal wildlife trade. Joining us now to tell us more about this is Moody Gardens Rainforest Curator Paula Kolvig. Paula, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. This for people that don't know what a loris is, it almost reminds me of a gremlin, the cute gremlin.
Pygmy slow loris. It's so cute.
They are very cute. So lorises are a prosimian species, which is basically a way to say it's a primitive primate. So they are a primate. They're nocturnal. They're arboreal, and they are the only venomous primate species there is. So there's 11 species of lorises throughout Southeast Asia.
I knew it.
And unfortunately, all of those species are facing threats and are considered either endangered or critically endangered or vulnerable.
So if they bite you, will they kill you?
I don't know if it'll kill you, but it's not going to be fun.
Well, how do you deal with it? I mean, you're handling them.
Well, we don't bother them to where they feel that they need to be defensive. So
see, I like that.
It's an interesting technique. They actually have a branchial gland basically in their elbow that secretes this oil. And when they go to, in defense, they'll go and lick it. So when it mixes with the saliva, that creates the venom.
Oh, that's brilliant.
As someone who often gets called small and cute, I really felt...
Oh, wow.
You're small. You're so cute.
Slow moving.
Small,
No, I don't
and,
think you've ever been called slow moving.
Tiny and cute, but dangerous.
Cute but dangerous.
Celeste is the gremlin that goes bad. No, I mean, really, if you want to know, I mean, don't you almost think that the gremlin was fashioned after the loris? It looks just like it.
A little bit, yeah. It's those big eyes.
Yeah, it's big teddy bear eyes, and they're so cute.
Yep.
Can you at all domesticate them, or is that even possible?
No, there really isn't a way. I mean, there's no primate that should be thought to be domesticated, but there's just not. You can't meet those needs with them being nocturnal, living up in the trees.
Yeah.
They eat bugs, they eat gum. There's
Yeah, they're
there's
tree
just things
sap.
that we can't.
Tree sap lovers, right?
Yep.
Let me ask you about the breeding in captivity, and that you folks have been able to have one of these here. I would think to myself that major institutions are trying to do this too. Talk a little about the conservation efforts that you folks are doing down at Moody.
Yeah, we are. Here at Moody Gardens, we're an AZA accredited facility. So we work with AZA and other accredited facilities through the Slow Loris SSP, which is the Species Survival Plan. So they'll go through, and it's almost like online dating. So they'll go through and pick the best genetic matches. And between those accredited facilities, we transfer them in to kind of create the best genetic match so that we can pair them up for breeding purposes.
Did you name him? Or is it her?
We did, actually, just last week.
It's a male. It's a male, right?
And his name is Bug.
Bug.
So,
Bug.
Mom's name is Cheddar, and Dad's name is Roach. So they're very interesting names. But between some of the facilities, some of the lorises out there are named after bugs. So we have Roach, we have Cricket, I think Io Moth in the population. And there's a couple that are named after cheeses. So the biologist had a tally going. So it was between, I think, Havarti and Bug. So either be named after Mom or Dad. So, and Bug won out.
I see.
Adorable.
A cheesy name.
Yeah.
If you're curious too, and you're listening to us right now, you can go over to our YouTube channel. We keep popping up a picture of one so you can see just how adorable they are.
I'm interested to know how does the what is it called again? The pygmy slow lorises, how do they communicate with each other?
There's a lot of chirps and chattering. Oftentimes we will hear that, especially when we've introduced the male to the female. There's a lot of talking that goes on.
I'm assuming it's from the female.
It is a dating
I'm
app.
assuming the same.
Yeah, they also communicate olfactory. So there's a lot of urine scent marking and everything like that to communicate male territory or when the female's ready to breed. So there's those communications that aren't necessarily just audible.
You know, actually, this brings up an interesting point, and I'm curious about, you'll let me know if it was interesting or not, is that in that chatter, is there understanding beyond simply showing concern or worry, things like that? Are they communicating on a different level in some way?
Oh, I fully think that they are.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to animal communication in general than we really know at this point, but I fully believe they've got a lot to say to each other. So
what's the deal about being hunted for medicinal purposes? I know in Asia they use a lot of different animals for that.
So unfortunately, a lot of animals are facing those kind of threats, but in particular, lorises, they are facing the threats like you mentioned as far as habitat loss, human encroachment. But, we keep talking about how cute lorises are. They're also being caught up for illegal pet trade, and then they are also used for tourist photo ops. They're so cute. People want to put them on their shoulder and take a photo. But there's also a little bit of that medicinal, belief that they hold medicinal properties. Mm-hmm. So, and unfortunately, when they're capturing these animals, they're putting them in small cages, keeping them in bright lights. Oftentimes they're doing cruel things like removing the teeth so they can't be bit, crowded conditions. So it ends up to where these animals don't really survive that.
When we talk about animals in captivity, there are often people that are concerned with keeping an animal in captivity. Talk a little bit about the significance or importance or concerns you folks have, especially when it comes to endangered species and keeping them in, because their natural habitat is in a pyramid in Galveston.
Correct. So, again, I mentioned that Moody Gardens is an AZA accredited facility. So that's the highest standard there is for zoos and aquariums. And our main mission is conservation. So, we truly feel that if these animals aren't we aren't able to display them in a way that people can have empathy for them and see them and understand them, it's a problem over there in Southeast Asia. We'll never know about it. And they're going to disappear without some help. So the goal of the species survival plan is to create a genetically healthy population that's sustainable, that does not put pressure on any of the wild populations. And in fact, we help contribute to research and conservation that's going on in the wild.
So with the loris, how endangered is the loris, and what do you see? Can we get it out off the endangered list at some point?
That's always the hope, that there are some ways to get them off the endangered list, but right now the main thing is to bring awareness to kind of what's going on in the wild, and that illegal pet trade, medicinal, hunting for medicinal purposes or anything like that. They are endangered, and like I said, of the 11 species, they range from critically endangered to vulnerable. So they're all facing kind of the same threats. And the hope is that through research and in situ conservation, that we'll start kind of being able to help them come back.
In the name pygmy slow loris, I would imagine that they do, like we've talked about, they move very slow. Are they as slow as like a sloth?
They're pretty slow, but the thing with sloths too is they can be fast when they want to be.
Yeah.
But they're able to, they don't have a whole lot of defenses. So at night, if there's any nighttime predators, they have the ability to sit really still and really slow until the threat passes. So they're a little bit cryptic, and they can almost just be missed. So that's part of their slow nature as well.
What is a day like for Bug these days? What happens in the course of his day?
The day in the life of Bug. He is being waited on hand and foot. We're still weighing him once a week. We started out for the first month, weighing daily. And then when we were comfortable with where he was gaining weight and the fact that he was still nursing, we dropped it down to every other day. And so now we're just at a point where we weigh him just once a week, and we're still monitoring.
You can't keep saying this without telling me how much he weighs.
He's a baby.
So he was born at 23 grams.
Oh my God.
And his last weight last week was 145 grams.
What's a gram?
So less than half a pound.
Half a pound. Oh my Lord.
Well,
less than half a pound.
Send Bug our love. And
Paula, if you guys, come down, visit us, and hopefully you'll see him at Moody Gardens in the rainforest. And we also are having a campaign it's called PSLs for PSLs. So if you go visit our Moody Brews, our coffee shop and our hotel at Moody Gardens, and you order a pumpkin spice latte PSL, a portion of the proceeds will go towards pygmy slow loris conservation.
Look at that.
Paula Kolvig is the Rainforest
genius
Curator at Moody Gardens. Paula, thanks for joining us today at Hello Houston.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up, we'll continue diving into today's top stories. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
On Fresh Air, you'll hear conversations with entertaining people like Nancy Cartwright, the voice of Bart Simpson.
I gave him one take, one sound, one voice, and that was it. Blah, 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 blah. And Matt, his eyebrows went up, his tongue came out of his mouth. He's like, oh my God, that's him, that's Bart, that's him. You got the part.
The most interesting people in show business tell their stories on Fresh Air.
Fresh Air. weekdays at 8 p.m. on News 88.7. Support for Houston Public Media comes from the University of Houston Law Center, a global law school known for their faculty, facilities, programs, and international partnerships. More at law.uh.edu.
Sunny today. We'll get up to around 91. Clear tonight, a low 75. It's 84, and this is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, Governor Greg Abbott said on social media yesterday that President Trump could send 400 members of the Texas National Guard to other states to, quote, ensure safety for federal officials. We'll discuss this and more of today's top stories. I'm Frank Billingsley.
And I'm Celestia Sherman. We'll also talk with former FBI profiler Dr. Mary Ellen O'Toole, one of the world's leading experts on criminal behavior.
And I'm Ernie Manous. We want to hear from you. What are your thoughts, questions, or concerns? Give us a call or text us at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
You can also watch us on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston continues right after the news from NPR and News 88.7.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The state of Illinois and the city of Chicago are suing the Trump administration over its effort to deploy National Guard troops in the state. NPR's Joe Hernandez reports the latest development caps a dizzying weekend of lawsuits and attempts by President Trump to send Guard members out to more American cities.
The state of Illinois and the city of Chicago are asking a judge to stop the Trump administration from federalizing the Illinois National Guard. They also want the administration barred from sending National Guard members from any other states, including Texas, to Illinois. The administration's decision to federalize the Illinois Guard over the weekend comes after weeks of threats by Trump to send troops into Chicago, which he's characterized as overrun with crime. Local and state leaders say there's no need for the National Guard in Chicago and that Trump is abusing his power. Meanwhile, a federal judge in Oregon over the weekend temporarily blocked the administration from deploying National Guard troops from within the state or outside of it to Portland. Joe Hernandez, NPR News.
Today is day 6 of the government shutdown. Members of the Senate reconvened today to vote on temporarily funding the government. NPR's Deepa Shivaram reports Republicans and Democrats don't appear any closer to breaking their impasse.
Republicans are saying that right now the priority is to fund the government. And once that happens, then Congress can turn to these healthcare tax credits that are about to expire. Though I will say, there's no guarantee that there's enough support to extend those credits. In the meantime, there's this messaging war going on. Republicans are saying that Democrats are holding up the vote on reopening the government. The White House even has a timer on their website for how long they say Democrats have shut down the government. Democrats on the other side say that Republicans are the ones holding it up because they refuse to negotiate.
NPR's Deepa Shivaram reporting. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has taken the final step necessary to implement new guidelines for getting vaccinated against COVID-19 and chickenpox. More from NPR's Rob Stein.
The COVID vaccines are now subject to what's known as shared decision-making. That means for the first time this year, anyone who wants to get vaccinated has to first consult with a doctor, pharmacist, or some other healthcare professional about the risks and benefits of vaccination. This is an extra step compared with past recommendations. In addition, the CDC now recommends that toddlers receive chickenpox vaccination as a separate shot, rather than in combination with measles, mumps, and rubella vaccination. Rob Stein, NPR News.
French President Emmanuel Macron has lost a fourth prime minister in just over a year. After less than a month in office, Sébastien Lecornu has resigned. This comes just one day after naming his government. The Dow is down 110 points at 46,647. This is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. Houston area Congressman Wesley Hunt has entered the Republican primary for the U.S. Senate from Texas, challenging incumbent Senator John Cornyn and State Attorney General Ken Paxton. News 88.7 political reporter Andrew Schneider says Hunt's entry increases the likelihood the GOP contest will go to a runoff.
Hunt enters the contest as Cornyn in second place, is closing the gap with Paxton in most polls. For that reason, the National Republican Senatorial Committee has been pressing Hunt to stay out of the Senate race and protect his seat in the House of Representatives. Mark Jones is a political scientist at Rice University's Baker Institute.
Assuming Hunt isn't able to leapfrog either Cornyn or Paxton and get into the May runoff, his entry into the race will, though, force a runoff. And in a runoff, Republican primary turnout is very low, and the people who turn out tend to be more conservative, something that benefits Paxton more than Cornyn.
Hunt's entry into the Senate race opens a vacancy in a solidly Republican congressional district in West Houston and Northwest Harris County. I'm Andrew Schneider, News 88.7.
Oil and gas companies are reporting declined activity and pessimism about the industry's outlook. That's according to the latest Dallas Fed Energy Survey. Skip York is a non-resident fellow for energy and global oil at Rice's Baker Institute. He says drilling crews are most likely to be impacted by the slowdown in production. But he says if the trend continues, Houston area office employees could also be impacted.
That's when you start seeing layoffs at the corporate centers. We haven't really seen a lot of that yet.
Some major oil and gas companies have already announced layoffs this year. Most recently, Exxon confirmed its plans to lay off 2,000 workers in Canada, Asia, and Europe. The Houston Avenue Bridge was struck by another semi-truck last night. Just last month, the bridge was hit 3 times in less than a week. The crash was cleared overnight, but debris was blocking multiple lanes. There are plans to remove the Houston Avenue Bridge entirely. However, work for that project isn't set to begin until 2027. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. Fisher is committed to helping clients stay on track to reach their financial goals and enjoy a comfortable retirement. FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hello there.
Welcome to the second hour of Hello Houston.
It's a Monday.
It
is.
Made it through the weekend. A lot of people joined us this hour because it's their lunch hour. So if you're having lunch, happy lunch.
Yeah.
And if you're not, hello anyway.
Hello anyway.
Yeah, and thanks for tuning in. If you're listening to us on 88.7 or if you've joined us on YouTube, thanks for being here.
If you do follow us on YouTube, you can just go to the Hello Houston page or to Houston Public Media page. And right there, we're just streaming right there now, or also over at YouTube, but it's the same feed. And the reason I bring that up is we were talking about the slow loris in the pygmy slow loris. And we had pictures of him up there. So if you weren't watching on YouTube, you missed the pictures of the cute little guy.
To me, it looks just like a gremlin. Remember the gremlins then they would get mean and nasty, but these only will
This
bite
one
you.
was named Bug.
Yeah.
And Alex Garza says Bug has seen more movies than Celeste. And Alex, you're right, probably. Accurate. I don't disagree.
That's funny. So nice weather. We're going to continue
what
to
does this
see
week
warm
look
weather,
like?
a little warmer than normal. Look at low 90s for highs.
Okay.
The air is fairly dry. It's coming in from the northeast and the east a bit.
Yeah.
Still a 20% chance of a coastal shower will be about it because it doesn't seem like it's going to be too moist out there. And then lows at night, we're making it down into the 60s. In fact, the evenings, now that the sun is going down around 6:30, 6:45, the evenings are feeling pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so make a plan to have a little outdoor dinner.
Well, Frank, I was talking to my sister, and she lives in Colorado, and she was saying how they've already received some of their cool fronts coming in. And so does that, when other areas in the nation are getting their fronts, does that affect us at all? Do we feel that?
It's almost like beating down the door, so you get cold air trying to come in. The southeast flow a lot of times will stave it off, but then it keeps trying, and eventually it makes it through. And we get one of those really chilly cold fronts. We'll
Love
get it.
those.
I love those. It'll get here.
Yeah. Tell your sister I hate her.
I will.
I finally put
actually.
out my Halloween decorations yesterday.
You
I still
did.
feel like it's too early, but I couldn't wait.
No, I think it's time.
I do too.
It's okay?
I do
All right.
too. I realized that yesterday. My son Philip loves Halloween decorations and those things. And I was like, what happens is you feel like it's too early. And then by the time you know it, it's
Right.
time.
My thing is, time's going to run out. After Halloween, I have to take them down.
You have to take it down.
So there is an end in sight already.
Right.
Are you a big Thanksgiving guy for like the table?
Okay, I'll tell you this and we'll move on to the headlines. So I buy inflatables, those
Yes.
big, and so I can't find a good inflatable for Thanksgiving, but there was a dog that's got a witch's hat on, but it had a big gold buckle on it. So I've taken tape and I flattened out the hat. So once Halloween is over, I put the dog out and pretend he's a pilgrim, wearing a pilgrim hat instead of a witch's. Anyway.
Nice.
All right, we got a lot coming up that's much more interesting on today's show. We have a former FBI profiler who I really love. Mary Ellen O'Toole will be with us talking about how we should be looking at profiling in today's day and age. And also, you have a friend of Frank's coming
I
up.
do.
Frank.
Scott Powell, Admiral Scott Powell. I'm a Texas Navy admiral myself, and we're going to talk about just what the Texas Navy is and does and was and how we continue to commemorate it.
What a fabulous, I think, organization.
Yeah.
I feel like they just truly are the spirit of when disaster strikes. That is when I think about just coming together. It's them stepping in when people need you.
And speaking of stepping in when people need you, we need the headlines. Celeste, take us away.
President Donald Trump could send 400 members of the Texas National Guard to other states to ensure safety for federal officials. That's from Governor Greg Abbott, said Sunday on social media. On Sunday evening, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker posted on X saying that the president is ordering the deployment of Texas National Guard members to locations like Illinois and Oregon, calling it Trump's invasion. The announcement followed protests at ICE facilities in these states that have led to arrests. Pritzker also called on Abbott to refuse any coordination. Less than an hour later, the Texas governor responded that he fully authorizes such a move by the president. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said in a memo about the Texas Guard's mobilization that the orders will be effective immediately for an initial period of 60 days. They could also be extended where needed, including in Portland and Chicago. It's unclear how the deployment would proceed, however, as a federal judge on Sunday temporarily blocked the deployment of any National Guard units to Oregon. And this was reported by the Associated Press. What do you think about the governor's actions? Give us a call, 713-440-8870.
It's interesting. We always say, what do you think at the end of the read of a headline? And we ask for a phone number. We've already got one just ready to go. So let's find out, Wayne from Galveston, what is on your mind?
Well, two things. When Harvey came, it was a bad storm. And we was looking for the governor to do something. He didn't do nothing. So I noticed he'll work for the outsiders. He won't work for the state. Like when them kids had that flood, he moved slow. And then when the kids got killed in Uvalde, he was saying it wasn't his fault. It's not his fault. You the governor. So quit doing President Trump did and help the people in the state of Texas where you get our tax dollars from. Then the second part, tell your profiler to profile me. When Trump was in as the president and then Ukraine and Russia was fighting, President Trump said, I'm not giving you these guns till you give me something on fight. So that's one point. The second point is give me 13,000 votes in Georgia. Give me 5 seats in Texas. He practically got 6 because Abbott hadn't even put a person in for the 18th district when Sylvester Turner died. So he playing dirty politics. He's not helping the people. He only helping the other people. And this last part, Trump said these words here. He campaigning for a Nobel Peace Prize. You got to earn a Nobel Peace Prize. You just can't beg for one. And I'll leave y'all with that. Thank you.
Dwane, thank you very much. One point you do bring up is the 18th, the seat in the 18th for us in Congress, and that election is in November, which then brings us back to the point today is the last day to register to vote. So, Wayne, I thank you for giving me one more opportunity to push that. Please go online, check, make sure you are registered. If not, today is the day you have to do it. Harris Votes is one place you can look, or hctax.net to check and see. Okay, I just had to get that plug in there.
And again, 713-440-8870. Ari from Clear Lake is on the line. Ari, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. Sadly, it's another page from an authoritarian hard-right takeover. I don't admire the White House and their continuous push to find issues where there are not. So it's a clear cooperation by Governor Abbott, and he should know better, and he should think more about the needs of Texans instead of complying with an authoritarian push. Thank you all.
Ari, thank you very much for those comments.
Thanks.
You know, Ari makes me think about something we've kicked around before and people have talked about, if whether or not all of this cooperation with Abbott toward the Trump administration is that Abbott is considering a run for president and wants to curry the favor of the current president, hoping that that will then move forward. Some have speculated.
Get an endorsement from him?
Get his MAGA troops behind, because who is the next heir apparent? Some said it would be J.D. Vance. Others have said, no, he doesn't have it and Trump isn't going to pass it to him, that they're looking. But I think it'll be an interesting thing to see what happens when that comes
I think Marco
around.
Rubio has his eye on
Little
it.
Marco, as
I
Trump
think Marco
called him.
Rubio has it.
Yeah. A couple of YouTube
comments, yeah.
Yeah, Darkman says Abbott must be expecting a nice Christmas gift from Trump. As Ernie says, perhaps an endorsement.
Yeah.
Here or there, we should stay out of other cities' affairs since we, Texas, doesn't appreciate when others do. Well, I can only imagine what Texans would do if somebody else's National Guard showed up in our backyard.
Or if another governor was saying that they were going to send it out, approval of that.
Maybe you know more about this, Frank or Celeste, than I do when it comes to it. The Texas National Guard can be deployed into other states. I thought that the Texas National Guard was for the business of the state of Texas, but I guess I don't know enough about
They've
this.
been down at the border for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but we have a border.
And they were, in fairness to the governor, they were at the flood scene after the July floods.
Right, but once again, in Texas. And
this is a new rule I've heard. I
did hear.
But, we have electric people from other states come and help us when we need electric people.
Yeah.
You're right, so maybe they...
As
I
long
just
as
don't know the
governors
policy
agree.
and
I guess the
understanding.
governors agree.
Yeah, there is a court case that says, though, that that blocked the California National Guard from going to Oregon. So we'll see what happens there.
And again, 713-440-8870. You're listening to Hello Houston.
So you're going to like this one.
Okay.
On Tuesday, Texas took a major step toward reshaping America's financial landscape. You've heard of the New York Stock Exchange.
Oh, yes.
All right. Well, welcome.
I know that much about this story.
Well, we have a Dallas-based Texas Stock Exchange. I didn't know much about this, but it's getting a clear green light to really become more and more popular and take on more and more companies. So state officials celebrated the milestone. They've been approved by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. The governor said it's, quote, Texas is swiftly becoming America's financial hub. It's TXSC, Texi. Texi. It's been building momentum since last summer, 2024. It launched from backing from BlackRock, Citadel Securities, Charles Schwab, you've heard of, raised more than $160 million. So here are the key points with this. Okay. The New York Stock Exchange, first of all, is very physical, right? You've seen them ringing the bell and all of that. They're on the floor. You've probably watched, Greed with Michael Douglas, all of that. So they won't have that. The Texas Stock Exchange will be all electronic. So therefore, it would be less to run it, cheaper to run it. And then companies that get a seat on the New York Stock Exchange, you have small cap companies, which means 200 million to like 2 billion. And then you have mid cap, which is 2 billion to 10 billion. And then you have large cap companies, which are worth more than 10 billion, right? So this is going to, I think, focus on the mid and large cap companies. And we have more I think there are more Fortune 500 companies in Houston than there are in New York City. So there are a lot of Fortune 500 companies. I mean, the idea, if you have Ernie Company, right? Let's say there's an Ernie Company. You want to try to get on the stock exchange.
Can you only be on one exchange?
I don't know the answer to that, but I think the answer is yes.
Okay, because then that would make the story make more sense to me.
So, I mean, basically New York has Wall Street. Texas will have Y'all Street.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, you've been sitting on that one, haven't you?
Yep.
All day?
Yep. So the Ernie Company wants to be on this because Ernie needs money, right?
Right.
And so you get there, and then you get public money, people investing in you to hopefully get a profit out of it. So that's the good. Here's the ugly.
Okay.
If you dig in, we want, quote unquote, we want to make sure that the companies that are on the Tech C align with Texas principles. So does that mean if you're going to be a company on the Tech C, then you can't hire transgender people? You can't have transgender bathrooms. You have to put the 10 Commandments on the wall. That's, I think, the dirty little secret of this is that the companies are going to have to be companies that almost like universities now are going to get federal approval. I think that the companies that are a part of Tech C are going to have to get Texas approval. Aligned with Texas principles. Now, maybe I misread that, and we're only talking about Texas's financial principles, which I don't know what those are.
Well, it'll definitely be interesting to see. You know, the Dallas-based Texas Stock Exchange is expected. It's expected to launch next year, and it's going to be interesting to see if how Texas is going to be able to go against. I mean, the real heavyweights. New York.
I don't know if they'd be against it. It would just be companies that need a place to park and to get public money.
Yeah.
So then, could any state have an exchange?
You'd have to have a lot of big hitters backing you.
Okay. See, I just don't know. I'm the person. My entire investment is in my savings account.
That is so awful.
I know. It's horrible.
I've tried to hook you up with some people.
I know nothing about this, so I don't understand.
Just throw it in the S&P 500 if you don't like, stock exchanges. But
okay, but tell me. Oh, sorry.
And I also think that, just looking at this from a strategic standpoint, I would almost think that this competition, even in the financial sector, is good.
Yeah.
We know Wall Street has gotten themselves in trouble in the past.
Yep.
And so the fact that, maybe people are going to say, now obviously not to a political alignment, but maybe there will be some competition in regards to, well, I do want, if I'm putting my money somewhere, for there to be a higher standard of principles, because Wall Street is infamous for some of their lack of principles.
Well, we're wildcatters down here in Texas. Sure. And so our regulations for businesses are much more lax than Wall Street. So to get on this exchange would be easier probably for some companies. And I'm just curious about what Texas principles they have to abide by.
Okay,
I just don't know.
You got to help me again here, Frank. So in today's day and age, why isn't all of this just done online? Why do there have to be exchanges?
You mean like Charles Schwab?
Yeah, I know. Why can't you just trade and buy from whatever companies you want to trade or buy from?
Well, you want to make sure that you need a Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, to oversee that Wall Street is doing the right thing in terms of ethics, as you don't want them playing too hard and fast with your money illegally. You always hear about people being clued in before the stocks drop that kind of thing. That's where they come in to try to make the exchanges fair.
Two words that often don't always go together: Wall Street and ethics.
Oh.
Or they could often. Yeah. I will just say I know very little of this topic, but I thank you, Frank, for educating us as much as you did. I feel bad. I do all those.
We should have somebody come on.
I know. I do all those Susie Orman specials.
We should have an economist come on.
We really should have an economist come on and really break it down for us.
I've done all those Susie Orman specials, and I still don't know much about what to do with my money. So,
well, I think I do think it is a good thing. I do. I just hope that they don't say, well, this company can join because they're a good, strong, white Christian male company, and this company can't because they are not in line with our ideals and principles here in Texas.
And again, 713-440-8870. We did receive a text about earlier. We were discussing about early voting, and we received a text. Jake from Stafford says, I just registered to vote today. I would have completely forgotten or missed the deadline if it weren't for y'all reminding me.
All right, Ernie.
Yay. Thank you for that, Jake in Stafford. We're very happy about that. I hope other folks remember today is the last day to register. Doesn't matter your good intentions. If you go to the polls on November 6th and you're not registered, it doesn't matter. You cannot vote. So make sure you take care of it today.
And if you're curious as to whether you are registered or not,
go online.
Go online and see. You put your name in there and they will find you or not.
hctax.net. Go there and you can check your registration.
Spell the whole thing. HC
Tax. TAX.
Oh. Yeah,
Harris County Tax Assessor's Office.
Yeah.
HC Tax.
Yeah. Okay.
There you go. You know what? Quickly, why don't I mention this story for you? Representative Wesley Hunt of Houston has officially entered the Republican primary for U.S. Senate. Hunt is known as a strong supporter of President Trump and has been quietly building this momentum for months. His backers argue he could appeal more to the MAGA base than Senator Cornyn without carrying the political baggage that hangs over Attorney General Ken Paxton. He's 43 years old, a former Army captain, and he faces a challenge of expanding, though, his name recognition beyond his Houston district, which is kind of like Memorial Park and out west, as he competes against two candidates with long statewide resumes, as we mentioned, Paxton and Cornyn. So what are your thoughts about Hunt getting into the race? 713-440-8870.
And we have a call, and I don't know what subject particularly. We've hit 3 now. Andres, looks like the National Guard wants to comment. He's from Southeast Houston. Hello, Andres. Welcome to Hello Houston.
Hey, man. First time caller. Been listening for about 2-3 years.
Oh, great. Nice. So what do you think?
It's about Trump and him trying to send troops to Oregon.
Yeah? Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it sets like a weird precedent going around that we're able to send military grade like weapons and people with tactics onto like civilians. And it's scary because it's being done to states that he doesn't necessarily agree to. Like we in Texas don't have to deal with that now. But, and first off, I want to say that he's our president. He's our chief and commander. We should trust him, and we should want him to do good for us because, we're Americans. Mm-hmm. But like I said, in Chicago, they had that incident where that woman got shot 3 times while getting pinned down. And first they said it was 10 cars, and now they said it was 3. And we don't know the full story. But what I do know is that all it's doing is inciting people to be more riled up. I don't think Portland is war-torn, and I think we should trust our governors like we trust Greg Abbott to be in our best interest.
Andres, thank you very much for sharing with us today. He makes a good point. It's funny, we keep going back and forth at the national level about states should control states or the federal government should. And it seems like sometimes the language that's coming out is throw everything back to the states, let them figure it out because they vote in their leaders. And then there's the flip side of it. But the federal government's got to come in and straighten it all out. So I would just like a little clarity on who should be doing what a little better than what we've been getting.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? And who gets to decide when the federal government really should be stepping in during certain situations and whenever it should be left to the
president,
states?
That's who
actually,
decides.
it's the Constitution that already laid it all out. But it seems like there's been a lot of shifting back and forth. Yeah. I want to go back, though, to the Wesley Hunt story just for a minute. I'm fascinated by him entering the race on the Republican side because we have such heavy hitters as Cornyn and Paxton. And we kind of were led to believe that the Paxton choice in there was kind of the Trump choice moving in because Cornyn had kind of stood against Trump on some things. And so that's why there was this political divide. So when you bring Hunt into the race, does this, though, split that MAGA faction and then the votes go more towards Cornyn? So I'm curious if this entry into the race doesn't really help Cornyn.
I have a question. Kevin and I were talking about this just yesterday. If Paxton loses, does he still get to be Attorney General or does he have to give that job up?
I think he's still on the ballot for Attorney General.
Well, wait, how can he be on the ballot for that and Senate? Or we got to wait until this... Okay.
I've got to look into that. Different states have different rules and regulations on it where you can be the vice president nominee but still running for the Senate in your state, and then if you win one, you concede the other. Some states don't allow that.
And we will have Mark Jones on from the Rice University to discuss this in depth tomorrow. I as well did reach out to Representative Wesley Hunt of the 38th District to join us on Hello Houston. So we will be waiting to see if he responds. I do think it's very interesting that he has entered the race, given the fact that when you look at the election going in from the Democratic side, we have some really big names like James Tallarico, we have Colin Allred, and then we as well have now Wesley Hunt in the race for this position. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see.
Yeah, because it takes a lot of money to run.
Yeah.
And somebody's obviously backing him. Or he wouldn't be able to afford it, I would think. I would love for him to come on.
We would absolutely. And again, we did reach out to Representative Wesley Hunt. We will keep y'all posted. But coming up on Hello Houston, another installment of Friends of Frank. This is News 88.7.
Hello, I'm Josh Adams, General Manager of Houston Public Media. This station just lost $2.2 million in federal support annually. To keep our station strong, we've launched the Resiliency Fund, powered by community members just like you. Your support will help bridge the funding gap and ensure these programs remain free and accessible to everyone. If public media and this station matter to you, now is the time to act. Support the Resiliency Fund today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
I want to make a movie about this.
The Arts Hour brings you film.
The themes in it are so far ahead of their time.
Books.
The detail is amazing.
Art.
There's all the personal stuff.
Theatre.
Lots of singing and dancing and colours.
Music.
The dance floor is made for dancing.
And everything in between.
I want it to be exciting.
That's the Arts Hour with me, Nikki Beatty.
I really identified with it.
From the BBC.
The Arts Hour, Friday nights at 9 on News 88.7.
On Fresh Air, you'll hear from people who really make you think, like astrophysicist Brian Greene explaining the scientific theory that our universe is just one of many.
And the image that I like to have in mind is, imagine that our universe is like one slice of bread in a much grander cosmic loaf, with the other slices of bread being other universes.
No subject is too big for Fresh Air. Join us.
Fresh Air, weekdays at 8 p.m. on News 88.7.
Support comes from Alley Theater, presenting The Da Vinci Code. Symbologist Robert Langdon and cryptologist Sophie Noveau race to solve a puzzle that could change history. September 19th through October 19th. Tickets at alleytheater.org/code.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from St. John's College, a great books college, offering a January freshman program allowing students to be a sophomore by fall at the Rocky Mountain campus in Santa Fe, New Mexico. More at sjc.edu.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
All right, some of you know, because I talk about it all the time, that I have the honor to have been inducted as an admiral into the Texas Navy. It is honorary, but the title means a lot to the history of our state. And I invited Admiral Scott Powell to join me as a friend of Frank to tell us more about just what the Texas Navy was and what it is today. So sit back and enjoy this edition of Friends of Frank.
Well, thank you for the invitation. It's a great opportunity.
Well, like the opportunity for the Texas Navy to even exist. A lot of people don't know that we have had a Texas Navy, and obviously still do, but it was very important back in the day, especially in the days of the Alamo. So talk a little bit about where the Texas Navy came from.
Well, the Texas Navy actually started back before there was a state of Texas. And our official forming was 1835 in November 1835. And so a little while before that even, we had a group of privateers that were helping to protect the Texas coast prior to there being a Texas coast. But in 35 is when the governor of the Republic, Henry Smith, made a call to actually buy vessels and form the Navy.
Well, tell us a little bit, Scott, about why did Texas need a Texas Navy back then?
The Navy was so important because Mexico was working on starving the Texans out through a blockade system. And when the privateers came in to help, they were instrumental in breaking that blockade with the assistance of some U.S. Navy vessels. And that proved the point as Texas was forming up and trying to become a real republic, the value of those assets. And prior to the republic being formed, what occurred was there was a battle called the Battle of Campeche. And with that, Santa Anna was trying to bring in 1,000 reinforcements for the Battle of San Jacinto, additional weapons and armament and all the food supplies for the Mexican militiamen on the ground. And the ships of the Texas Navy actually blockaded that from happening and took custody of those supplies. And with that occurrence, it stopped the Mexican army from being near as effective as it could have been at San Jacinto.
Wow. So we were really a player in the Battle of San Jacinto.
We were a huge player before everyone got to San Jacinto, and then during the Battle of San Jacinto, kept the reinforcements. They would have literally come up the Brazos River behind General Sam Houston, and we would have seen another Alamo event occur because our small forces would have been trapped between the reinforcements and the main.
I didn't know that. You know what? Just parenthetically, Captain Jesse Billingsley, who fought at the Battle of San Jacinto, is my first cousin 4 times removed. How about that? So
perfect.
Yep, Captain Jesse. All right, so Scott, so we have the Texas Navy, 1835. It's proven its value in 1836. A bunch of the boats sink in 1839. Is that right? There were 4 of them, and I think they all either grounded out or sunk or something happened to them.
Yep, we lost basically our Navy due to natural disasters, groundings. That was a bad time for the Texas Navy, with the last one being the Invincible. We have located 3 of them. The 4th is the schooner Invincible, and we're still looking for her. And we intend to find her to close the chapter on where our vessels are.
All right, so we come back, the second Texas Navy in 1839, and we were around until 1846, I guess, until the United States made us the 28th state and sort of absorbed the Texas Navy.
That's correct. We were going through a transitional period in the maritime industry. That's where steam came to play. And so we came in with the first steamships when the Texas Navy kind of reconstituted itself, and the value of it, we built actual steam-powered fighting vessels. And the Cavala was prime one, and it was sunk, right there off of Texas City. And we have recovered parts of her boilers, and they're on display down at the Rockport, Texas Maritime Museum now.
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of people, I think, would be interested to know that there was a huge trading route from New Orleans to Galveston.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Texas Navy protected that basically from pirates.
New Orleans was instrumental to the Texas Navy in the development of Texas itself. Every vessel that we had was outfitted and crewed out of New Orleans. And so there was a constant route back and forth. We protected the trade routes because every single thing that came into Texas came through New Orleans by ship into the Texas ports.
Wow. You've been listening to the historical portion of the Texas Navy here on Hello Houston and Friends of Frank. I'm talking to Admiral Scott Powell, who heads up the Navy. I'm an admiral myself. Let's go to where we are now. I know we came back in 1958, and take us from that quickly to where we are right now.
1958, Governor Preston actually reconstituted the Navy again and brought it forth. And that's when civil defense was becoming big in the state of Texas. And so he called for everyone that owned a vessel to come forth as a member of the Texas Navy fleet. And so recognized when you registered your boats, you got a sticker that said you're part of the Texas Navy. And in 1964, there was a reviewing of the fleet where the governor would go down and watch the vessels come and parade by. U.S. Navy participated with some of their vessels, and it was in 63, 2,500 people attended that event. 1 year later, it had 25,000 people in attendance.
Well, it's a nice recognition of the importance of the Texas Navy back when Texas was becoming the state that it became, and people forgot about it. So it's great that we continue to do that. Tell me a little bit about the activities that we do today. I know I was involved in one just last fall.
And we really appreciate your commitment. I mean,
well, my pleasure.
Yeah. Admiral Billingsley, you helped make the event for us, and it was a joy. We had a great time. Today, we are all charged, the admirals of the Texas Navy. First, you can only become an admiral by appointment by the governor. And so it's a select group. And to receive a commission as an admiral in the Texas Navy, you have to have a history that proves to the state you're worthy of doing it. Then the governor puts forth a charge to preserve, protect, and promote the great history of the Texas Navy. And so with that, we admirals are responsible for management of the assets of the Texas Navy being our history across the state, promoting. We identify opportunities to bring our history forward. We build museums. We have a great array of museums. We've got one down on board the Lexington. We've had displays on board the battleship Texas since 1955. We've got a wonderful display at the Military Forces Museum at Camp Mabry, and then down at the Texas Maritime Museum in Rockport. That's our primary right now, and all of them have got, tell the story of what the Texas Navy was about and what we do today. So if you hadn't been to it, they're worth getting out to.
Yeah, well, and if people say, well, I'll never be an admiral or I can't be an admiral, they can still get involved with the Texas Navy, right?
Yes, sir. You sure can. We have different levels of membership, starting with an associate member and then Commodore, which is just below the admiral, and then the admiral. The admiral differentiation is you have to be an admiral to be on the board itself. But we need workers. I mean, our Commodores, they're the backbone of the organization. They help us get the message out there all the time.
So what's the website? TexasNavy.org, right?
Yes, it is. That's exactly
TexasNavy.org.
Yeah.
So if someone goes there, they can read more about our history, why we do what we do, and join us.
That's right. And joining is the most important part, because the small dues that are used, that come in from that membership, they help support the daily operations. We are a 501c3 corporation, and so that makes it tax deductible as a charity. But more importantly, as a charity, we literally have nothing but a very small overhead expense. We don't have paid employees, staffs. We do it all, our own sweat and, hard work. So every dollar goes to the bottom line of telling the story.
Yep. Well, it's a great story to tell, Admiral Scott Powell, and I want to thank you for being here today on Hello Houston and being a friend of Frank. I appreciate it, and I'm sure I will see you in Galveston sooner than later.
Well, thank you, Frank. It's wonderful to talk to you, and we look forward to being able to work together.
That was Admiral Scott Powell, the 2025 president of the Texas Navy Association. Thank you for listening to this edition of Friends of Frank.
And coming up, we'll talk with former FBI profiler Dr. Mary Ellen O'Toole, one of the world's leading experts on criminal behavior. Stay with us.
With federal funding cuts, Houston Public Media has lost $2.2 million annually. In response, we have launched the Resiliency Fund, an urgent initiative to protect the programs and services you rely on. That includes PBS Kids, that provides free educational programming to children and families across Greater Houston. Your support of the Resiliency Fund helps keep this vital service accessible to our community. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Comes from Genesis Works Houston, connecting young professionals to real-world career experiences and hosting the 7th Annual Ambassadors Luncheon, Thursday, October 9th. More at ambassadorsluncheon.hou.org/event. Support comes from Blake Hillegeist Real Estate, independent commercial and residential real estate broker with over 30 years experience guiding clients through economic downturns, realty challenges, and everyday life situations. More at blakesellshouston.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. Call now, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org to get your comment in on today's topics. Here's Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
The recent assassination of political commentator Charlie Kirk sent shockwaves through the nation, not only because of the act itself, but because of the why behind it. So how do we recognize threats before they happen? Can we trust our gut, or does it sometimes lead us dangerously astray? Joining us today is Dr. Mary Ellen O'Toole, former FBI profiler and one of the world's leading experts on criminal behavior. In her book, Dangerous Instincts: How Gut Feelings Betray Us, she argues that our instinct, while useful, can often cloud our judgment, especially in moments of fear, emotion, or political bias. Dr. O'Toole, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you. Pleasure to be with you.
If you folks would like to join the conversation, you can call or text us at 713-440-8870. I guess I'd like to start with, then we can go back into more of the nuts and bolts of it all, but we're in such a world where rush to judgment is so quick. We need to know something immediately, and we go into that. But also, on the other hand, time is of the essence in cases like this. Am I correct?
Time is of the essence, but this kind of behavior that we're seeing, which involves predatory violence, it involves a lot of planning, that kind of thing, that happens over a period of days, weeks, months, and sometimes even years. So it's during that period of time where there are what we call warning behaviors that begin to manifest themselves. And sometimes the only people that might see these warning behaviors are coworkers or fellow students or family members. So this kind of behavior is not what the general public often describes as snapping behavior. So someone was fine yesterday and they just snapped today. That's not what underlies this kind of behavior. So there is time in there to recognize the warning behaviors, but that requires intervention and the knowledge of what some of the warning behaviors actually are.
Yeah. Quickly there too, do we thwart a lot of these efforts? Has the FBI been successful in making these things never happen? Or is it still we keep getting caught not knowing?
No, they do. The FBI, the Secret Service, your wonderful law enforcement agencies down there in Texas, they're really very highly trained individuals, and they do work closely with your school system down there and all over the country. And so the teams in schools, the threat assessment teams, the law enforcement teams, and the federal agencies have been receiving remarkable training over the last probably 25 years since Columbine, actually. And so they are able to intercede and to actually prevent some of these.
Dr. O'Toole, I have a really naive question. What is the dark web? I hear about it all the time. Is it really a place that people go and search out different kind of groups, or is it the groups themselves that are called the dark web? I mean, is it a real place?
That's a great question, and I'm not an expert in the dark web, but I can tell you it's both. It's going to a site online that most other people wouldn't even know how to access. And it's being in contact with other people that might share your ideas about committing an act of violence, or some other kind of, let's say, sexual perversion to normalize their behavior. But it's a place where they can go and they can routinely normalize behavior that 25 years ago could not happen.
So it's not like a .com, darkweb.com. I mean, it's these sites that sort of bring these people together, I guess. Does the FBI monitor these? I would think.
They do, and so do a lot of law enforcement agencies. But if you think about it like this, there are so many sites that open up and they're available to people, and then they increase or they shut them down. So to monitor everything 24/7 would really be a Herculean task. It's not possible. Just to be frank with you, it's not possible. So they do the best that they can. But again, that's why understanding these warning behaviors, because once somebody has been on the internet, let's say 10 hours a day, and I don't use that number rashly. And here's why I tell you this. The FBI actually did the first research on school shootings back in 1999 and 2000. And it was hard to find 18 cases. It was difficult. I had to go back into the 1970s. I was very well aware of Charles Whitman, but there were so many years in between where we looked and looked for these kinds of school and mass shootings. We pulled everybody together physically at a secret place in the DC area in the year 2000. And we said, tell us how these shooters are preparing for planning out these cases. And even though we didn't have the internet at that time, we did have violent videos. And we found that the shooters in these 18 cases, Columbine made 19, in these cases spent 8 to 10 hours a day engaged in these violent videos. Now jump ahead 25 years. You can only imagine what some of these individuals are doing to normalize their thinking about mass shooting and killing other people, normalizing that hatred that many of them have. It's probably many, many hours a day, probably more than 8 to 10, where they can engage in conversations and normalize thinking patterns and planning that we had no knowledge of prior to Columbine, and you would have a heck of a time doing prior to the shooting at Columbine High School.
Now, Dr. O'Toole, I find this conversation fascinating, and when I looked at your book, I was immediately intrigued, because so often growing up, we're told, listen to your gut instinct. But your book says how your gut betrays us. So explain to me how that works exactly.
Yes, it's kind of weird, isn't it? I get that question a lot, and I get that comment a lot. But here's what I mean by that. People tend to think that we are born with this internal barometer that just tells us that that person's dangerous and that person's okay. This situation is dangerous, but run away from this situation. We are not born with an internal barometer. It's something that is based on your experiences in life. But here's what I've seen go wrong over looking at violent crimes and working as an FBI agent and an FBI profiler for so many years. Oftentimes people use the wrong criteria to assess for violence. So someone might look at someone and say, well, that person's a member of the clergy. Well, that person has a PhD. That person has a really good job. They couldn't possibly harm me. They couldn't possibly be violent. Or people will make the assertion that, well, that person is so nice. They're so outgoing and they're so friendly. They couldn't possibly be that serial killer. We don't have a lot of serial killers now compared to what we did in the 70s and 80s. But those were the kinds of criteria that people use and continue to use to assess whether or not somebody could hurt them or hurt their family. So when I was asked to write the book, I kept track over the years of how we make mistakes in assessing people. So I'm trying to correct it, not to make people think that they can't really use this assessment tool a little bit better, but the criteria that has to go into that toolbox must be correct.
Two things I want to hit on right here. First of all, you had mentioned earlier warning signs and just things that people should keep in mind when they look at children, colleagues, friends that don't indicate definitely something is going to happen, but things that should alert people. What should we be looking for?
Well, the research on the warning signs has been really specifically to people that are thinking about carrying out a mass shooting. And one of these behaviors, which has been very prominent since the 70s and the 80s, and even at Columbine, and then past 1999 and 2000, and we see it even today, is a concept called leakage, like a leaky faucet. It's called leakage. And leakage is when the shooter tells somebody ahead of time what they're going to do. I didn't see that in other crimes that I work, like bank robberies or white collar crime. People kept their mouth shut. Well, in these kinds of cases, leakage is incredibly valuable. And nowadays, leakage has taken on a whole new concept. So people will post something, a comment or information online, or they will, excuse me, they'll tell somebody, they'll send an email, they'll actually say, this is what they plan to do. Prior to that, it was a lot more subtle, but that whole concept of leakage cannot be underscored enough. And here's what's happening, though. People that might hear the leakage would say, oh, Mary Ellen doesn't really mean that. Oh, she was just having a bad day. She doesn't really mean that. We have to take leakage very seriously, because there's nothing in the world of threat assessment that tells us if somebody says this a certain way, you can just rule them out. They're probably not going to do it. Leakage has to be evaluated by a trained threat assessor to make sure that there's nothing that is going on in their background to suggest that they actually are planning to carry out an act of violence. So leakage is insight into the individual. Most of the time, once a threat assessment is done, that threat assessor, that law enforcement person can say, this is a very low threat. They were just trying to act, get attention. They didn't intend to carry out. They don't intend to carry out. But we don't have a magic formula. We have to take all those threats very seriously.
Is that leakage a cry for help?
That's such a good question. By some people, it could be. By other people, it may not be. What I've seen kind of evolve over time, which is really frightening in a lot of ways, is that people that are engaged in this kind of behavior often get very excited. They're very proud of what they're going to do. It's not really a cry for help or a cry to, hey, stop me before I go too far. I would say it could have been 25 years ago, but nowadays this leakage and this addressing what their future actions are oftentimes, unfortunately, to brag about it and get attention.
This kind of leads into my next question. So this answer may have kind of answered it a little bit. But over time, especially in today's environment, we talk more about the political rhetoric people are putting out there and all of those concerns. Has the landscape changed in which you're looking for these factors to identify someone who may be potentially dangerous? Has that shifted with this political rhetoric, or is the rhetoric just a smokescreen and the exact same behaviors are still the same behaviors?
No, the rhetoric really has, I think, caused a big shift, and it's very it's very easy to get caught up in and be significantly influenced by this idea that there is an us against them landscape that's taking place around us. It's me against you. It's him against her, but that us against them mentality really reinforces people that think the only way that I can resolve that I have this enemy is, especially if I've developed this very dark emotion, which is called hatred. Hatred is not anger. Hatred is a very cold emotion in which you have enemies. And the only thing to do with someone that you hate is to completely move away, get away from them, or to annihilate them, to kill them. So that us against them mentality is doing some, in my opinion, some significant damage to people that are already thinking about acting out in a violent way and have already kind of developed these different outlooks towards people that may have this religion, people that go to this school, people that work these kinds of jobs. So you can already see that sort of separation of it's me against you. And that can really increase or augment their level of violence or their decision to act out in a violent way.
I know we are just about out of time. I don't know if this is a fair question or not. Hate crimes play into all of this. Yes or no? Is that a concept that it's at play in this or not?
It depends on what you mean by a hate crime. A hate crime is a legal term to identify how a case will ultimately be prosecuted. But if you're talking about does hate as an emotion motivate this crime, then yes, I would say that it does in some cases.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Mary Ellen O'Toole is a former FBI profiler and author. Dr. Mary Ellen, thank you so much for joining us today on Hello Houston. And that brings us to the end of our show. Be sure to join us tomorrow for more conversation. This is News 88.7.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Bayou City Art Festival, October 10th through 12th in Memorial Park, an outdoor gallery with over 200 artists.